Live from iRacing's virtual Sonoma Raceway, welcome sim racing fans to round number 5 of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. It's the over-the-top designs 175. I'm your host, Joshua Lee, joined alongside tonight by Ian Fisher. We have Zach Johnson down in the virtual production trailer, bringing us all of these wonderful camera shots from the virtual California hills. And Ian, this track during the spring, very green, very beautiful. Here, it is still beautiful in my opinion. One of my favorite road courses on the service, but we got a lot of sand and a lot of dust is gonna go flying when all these trucks take to this track.
Well, calling this track difficult, Josh, would be a bit of an understatement. It's one of the most technical road courses, not only in the world, but probably the most technical road course we'll see this season, if the only road course we'll see this season. So it's going to be a real tough challenge for all of our drivers here today. And being that this is my hometown track where I grew up around here in the Northern California area, yeah, I could definitely attest to it there. They call it the Golden Hills of California, not because of gold, but because the grass turns brown like you see it here. So yeah, like you said, the dust's going to be flying. Should be a good one here tonight.
We will be at Circuit of the Americas later on in the playoffs, but this is the only road course that we'll see in the regular season. And so far in the first 4 rounds of this campaign, Daytona, Homestead, Martinsville, and Nashville Super Speedway, we have seen 4 unique winners. And on the horizon of this schedule, Ian, Dega up next week, but then Darlington, Eldora, Indianapolis, Hickory, Pocono. We do another double dip to Talladega, Rockingham, and Charlotte. I mean, other than the repeating Talladegas, each of those tracks is unique in its own special way. None of them are similar, and we can draw small similarities here and there, but ultimately we're going from dirt to super speedways to short tracks to everything in between.
Oh yeah, very eclectic schedule we have here this season on the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. And really, we keep talking about how we thought this beginning stretch of the season from Daytona all the way to Darlington was going to be a huge test. But then, like you said, you look down at our all-star race at Eldora, Hickory, Talladega is always a wild card. And then even going into the playoffs, like you mentioned earlier, Coda there November 4th. So still a lot of difficult tests left for these drivers, and they're not out of the woods yet. They don't have to take the foot off their pedal, and they really got to be at the top of their game if they're going to come home with a championship at the end of the season.
I mentioned 4 different winners to begin this season, and you can see those 4 names at the top of our playoff standings after last week in Nashville. Chris Cinnamon, Joey Doucette, Tyler Dittmer, Ted Wade, the 4 drivers that have gotten wins this season. Brady LaBeouf has been the most consistent out of anybody. He currently leads the straight-up points standings, but has a 100-point gap over that cut line. And before Nashville and now after Nashville, we are in the exact same place. It's tied for that cut line, but now we see Keith Bradley and Devin Painter tied there, with Brian Abbott just 3 points under, and then Taylor Peacock, Trey Pitts both 9 points under. There's a lot of drivers who are good, solid to the cut line. 75 for Stephen Thomas, 93 for Keith Haney, 49 for Justin Lumpkin. But then you start to get down into Jacob Klinkart, Jose Luis Rivera, Tony Smith, Cody Knott. With no drop weeks, one bad round is going to push them to the outside looking in of the playoffs. With, even though we have 4 rounds down, we're still getting into the middle portion of the season, and very quickly those playoffs are going to be here.
Not only is it an opportunity for you to make a mistake and fall out of the cut line, but it's also a tremendous opportunity here, Josh, if you are one of those bubble drivers, to make a move here at Sonoma. If road courses are kind of your specialty, this is a really good shot here to try to put yourself in even better points positions leading into some tracks you may not be as strong as. But as you mentioned, on the flip side of that, this is a really difficult track. It's so easy to make a mistake here, go off track, self-spin, and then there's no full course yellows, I believe, tonight. So if you make a mistake, you're probably going to be at the back of the pack watching everybody go by.
We'll see full course yellows for the stages. We might see full course yellows for large pileups, but based on race control. But there will be no sim called full course cautions tonight. From the virtual Sonoma Raceway, we're getting ready to take to the green flag, and we'll grab a look at your starting grid for the evening. And a lot of drivers ready to take the green flag. We have some 36 entries ready to go into turn number 1 here from virtual Sonoma Raceway. And grabbing that pole position, how about Ted Wade, the only driver to go into the 117s? He clocks in a 117.8, looking to also be the first driver to win multiple races this season. Keith Bradley will start to the outside of row number 1. Keith Haney, Blake Lothian going to share that second row, both the low side of the 119s, rounding out the top 5, will be Jacob Klinkart. Michael McKinnon starts to the outside of that top 5 with Stephen Thomas and Brian Abbott 7th and 8th. Joey Doucette and Devin Painter are going to round out the top 10 on the grid as the times continue to climb. 11th is Tyler Dittmer, 12th Justin Lumpkin, 13th Adam Newbert, 14th Derek Kilgore, and rounding out that top 15 now into the mid 120s is Stephen Gregory. Robbie Richards is going to start to the outside of row 8, 16th with Jose Luis Rivera and Zach Hartwick rounding out the top 18. Top 20 sees Huck Wigington and Jason Morales rounding out the opening 10 rows. About halfway through the field now is Adam Cantwell and Brandon Bullock going to share the 11th row, 21st and 22nd. Cody Knott, Christopher Blanchard going to be 23rd and 24th. Dana Shepard, Jeffrey Sickles on the top 26 with Lucas Whitehead and Chris Cinnamon being the first two not to take a time in qualifying. Everybody else back from here did not clock in any times. TJ Moore, Brady LaBeouf sharing the 15th row with Trey Pitts, Raul Meza, Eric Zimmerman, Matt Rudder, and Dan Hagan and Taylor Peacock all the way back P36, a full field of drivers here at the virtual Sonoma Raceway. And as these drivers will dive into turn number 1, they'll be racing around this course for 55 laps tonight. Relatively short stages. Stage number 1 will see us reaching a full course caution at lap 12, with stage 2 ending at around lap 26. And then we'll go 55 laps all the way to the checkered flag. A custom fixed setup for each of these drivers as always. 100% fuel capacity in these trucks tonight, with 3 sets of tires awaiting these drivers in the pit lane. 2 attempts at overtime, and that fuel window in 28 to 32 laps. Pretty typical of this series. Not expecting anybody to need to pit in the opening 2 stages for fuel specifically, but we'll see everybody pit at the end of stage 2, and unless we get a good handful of overtime restarts, which is unlikely here at a road course, then we'll be seeing these drivers pit once for fuel, and then they'll stay on the track for the rest of the race.
Yeah, the only thing I could see really being a factor, Josh, is possibly tires, but even then, I don't think pit stops are going to be much of a factor in today's race. We made so much of a big deal about pit strategy, especially in our earlier races this season, but this should be pretty straightforward just to test driver skill.
As the field works their way now into turn number 6. This track being now one of NASCAR's traditions over in the West Coast. It was one of the first road courses NASCAR ever went to back when it was called Sears Point, and now being called Sonoma Raceway. Gilligan's Island in the middle is gone. Now everybody pits on the traditional pit road, but still is a very exciting place for these drivers to go racing. At a time, only one of 2 road courses that NASCAR frequented on the calendar. Now, of course, with upwards of 5 or 6 road courses per season on the NASCAR Cup Series calendar, Sonoma still holds a special place in a lot of race fans' heart, especially those that frequent this track every single year. We didn't see it in 2020 with the pandemic, saw a return in 2021, and now with the next gens in 2022, breathing a little bit of new life into this road course. And now we're going to see 36 of iRacing's best go head-to-head in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. Pace Truck enters the safety of pit lane. Field works their way out of turn 11 and into turn 12. It's Ted Wade in the 2 in control of the field as we see the green flag. We are racing from virtual Sonoma. Two by two, a majority of the way back, but up front, it's going to single file out for roughly about the top 5 as they still look side by side. That was Joey Doucette in a side-by-side moment with Devin Painter as everybody gets through cleanly. Lothian looks for a spot for second, but now as they exit turn 4A, and one driver going to go around in the background, looks like Brandon Bullock in the 17, goes off and into the sand. He's got a little bit of damage to the back end of that truck as well. We'll see him come down into the pit lane, but at the front, Ted Wade leads the way, and now pulling a gap of 1.3 seconds already. Bradley and Lothian sit second and third.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Ted Wade practiced a little bit for this track here, but going back to the 17 car and that spin, Josh, that blind corner and that transition between turns 3 and 4, so hard to see over the top of the hill, and the truck gets very light, so not really surprised to see somebody spin it over the top there, but as you mentioned, Ted Wade really already just putting on a clinic here and showing these guys how to drive around Sonoma.
How about Devin Painter? A small mistake from the 82 at the exit of turn 10. He dipped his left side Goodyears into the dust and ended up making a little bit of a mistake, lost some time, and almost got passed by Devin Painter, but at the line, the 99 eventually going to have to surrender to the 82 of Abbott as we go on to lap number 2. Joey Doucette, we saw him side by side on the opening lap. Now behind him, side by side, a door slam. That's the 4 onto the 34. Adam Newbert gives a hip check to Tyler Dittmer in the 34, pushes him off into the sand. Dittmer not with a ton of damage, it looks like, to that 34. Maybe just a little bit of a bruised ego as he has to fall all the way back now into the outside of the top 10, and around goes the number 88. That is Lucas Whitehead around and into the sand.
And it's just one of those things where you saw it trying to rejoin the track there after getting knocked off track and pulled in front of the 88 there. And the 88 had to check up very quickly. And again, just the truck gets out from underneath them. And these trucks are so delicate around this road course. You very much have to finesse them. It's not like any other oval track where you're driving the truck hard into corners and trying to drive off as aggressively as you can. You really got to be careful with your braking and throttle inputs to lay down fast laps here at Sonoma.
Out of turn 11, and Ted Wade, you mentioned it seems like he's been practicing, definitely obvious, and Zach Hartwick is going to go around into the chicane that used to be used on the IndyCar layout of Sonoma Raceway back when the NTT IndyCar Series raced here. Never used in NASCAR competition, I don't believe, in the 24. Ended up there all on his own lonesome by accident, and Hartwick going to fall to P31 now on the timing tower, as trying to regain a little bit of positions in front. The 88 of Lucas Whitehead, and he pushes Brandon Bullock just a little bit too wide and almost made contact with that outside wall of turn 11. Back onto lap number 3 now, and Whitehead trying to get a little bit further up into that top 30 as he sits now just at the edge of the top 30 in P30 on the racetrack, and sits now behind Matt Rudder in the number 33, as he's behind Raul Meza, and a good stack up here further back in the field as everybody tries to get their footing, and already 10 laps to go in the stage. And of course the drivers that are sitting just outside the top 10, they're going to end up wanting stage points here, and they got to get up and go sooner rather than later. Yes, the lap times are about a minute 20 average and a little bit slower for the back end of the field, but they still need to hurry up and go because that is not a ton of time at this track.
No, not at all, and especially once you get settled in here. We saw in the first couple of laps everybody just jostling for position, and now people have kind of settled into a bit of a single file snake here. But once you get settled in, then you have to start making your time, and that's where you have to start to go. And once all that shakes out, yeah, we already look up and it's lap 4 here, and they're going to go by quicker than you think. You know, it seems like a minute and a half lap is kind of a long time, but especially when you're in the truck racing, the next thing you know, you look up and the stage is over, Josh. So yeah, if you want to make your move for stage points, especially if you're right on the bubble of that top 10, you got to make a move right now. So you're looking at drivers like Norbert, Kilgore, Lumpkin, Doucette. Those guys have really got to be on the wheel trying to drive the the truck as efficiently as they can right now.
And those stage points can be crucial, especially for those drivers close to the cut line. If they don't get a win, they're going to have to rely on points, and every stage point possible is going to be crucial in them ending up making the playoffs when we begin that end of October at the Michigan International Speedway. Looking at the 23 of Stephen Thomas, who is still looking for a lot of winning success in this series. He has been one of the most consistent names in NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series history. Always in talks to win, but in the last season that we broadcasted here on Racecraft TV, I believe he was in contention maybe 8 times total in that season. Only walked away with 1 victory and fell short of the championship to Brady LaBeouf in the 9 as well. So Stephen Thomas still looking for a bit more success, and that Toyota Tundra right now, edge of the top 5, showing some speed, but it seems like tonight it's going to be who can be the best of the rest, as we see really Wade, Bradley, and Lothian kind of setting their own pace at the front currently.
Yeah, and Stephen Thomas finds himself in a comfortable little spot right here. He ran a minute 20 lap last time, Josh, and that's pretty consistent with other drivers in his part of the field right now. So you kind of mentioned it. It's going to be a best of the rest out of our top 3, and especially Ted Wade right now. But going to be a solid points day for the Tommy 3 truck there of Stephen Thomas if he hangs on to this position.
already seeing lap number 5, 2.3 seconds for that lead as Stephen Thomas sees the 78 of Keith Haney, watching and waiting in the wings, and the 23 trying to catch up to the 5 of Jacob Klinkart, who this season has been having a relatively good run so far in the points. Yes, he has not gotten into victory lane yet, but 23 above the cut line. When in previous seasons he has struggled a lot more than 23 points above the cut line. He's been struggling to make the playoffs and stay in the playoffs. This is looking like a breakthrough year for Jacob Klinkart, as he runs currently 4th and showing some good road course speed in that number 5 entry. But he's got Stephen Thomas behind in the Chevy versus Toyota, and you can even look back to a Ford F-150 sitting edge of the top 6 right now, and Keith Haney in the 78 is Brian Abbott in the 82 after his struggles early on in this race is trying to bounce back, currently sitting in P7.
Yeah, and Haney had a really good run last week at Nashville and was really in the discussion for the win. Couldn't quite steal it away there from Tyler Dittmer in the closing laps, and especially in our green-white checker restart. But he's been one to watch all season long. Been up there in the top 10, top 5, really making waves. And you mentioned it earlier, Josh, there's going to be some drivers that are going to get in on points, maybe not necessarily get a win. I don't know if Haney has had wind speed yet this season, but he's definitely been consistent. So he's definitely one to watch out for, to definitely make it on that cut line on points. And then once you get into the playoffs, it's kind of anybody's game.
That was Eric Zimmerman in the 94. That there he is right there, letting all these lead lap drivers go. He is now the one and only truck that has scored 1 lap down. How about this group of cars? This is the 13 entry of Michael McKinnon with Devin Painter in the 99 behind. Here comes a bit of a late dive for Painter. How about Joey Doucette getting aggressive as well on the back bumper of the 99 as Painter gets loose off the exit of turn 11. Does he clear McKinnon by 12? He does. Can Doucette clear McKinnon as well? Yes, he will. Then around the outside now into turn 1. Put Doucette now further into the top 10. McKinnon to the edge of the top 10 in 10th. Adam Newbert in the 4 now starting to catch up to this group as McKinnon gets a little bit of wheel spin off the exit of turn 2.
Yeah, and this group right here really racing. You mentioned it, Josh. That was quite a bold strategy there by Doucette, as we see one car, it looks like the 24 truck there, into the tire wall, into the hairpin turn. But that was quite the dive right there by Doucette into the hairpin, trying to make the space up. Really surprising to lock up the tires there on his truck.
I think the 24 might have gotten stuck in the tires there.
It looked like that.
Turn 11. I don't know if I've ever seen a truck get stuck on its door. That might be a new one. Let's take a look at the replay here. It was the 24 entering into turn 11. We're taking a look at Zach Hartwick here. A dive to the inside on the 26, and just lost the car under braking. Slams into the tires, and those are not like real life tires, where they'll just kind of give way and the trucks will win. No, the tires win in the iRacing service over these trucks, and man, that was one of the most unique entries ever. Michael McKinnon completely blows the braking zone. Newbert hits the tires, and Doucette gets doored by the 13. This battle for 9th just turned physical as McKinnon chooses violence.
Yeah, I don't think anybody lost a position there, Josh. That was kind of the crazy thing, as you said again, around crossing start-finish line here.
Michael McKinnon completely misses the braking zone, and Doucette with even more troubles as he falls to P15, now P16, make it P17 on the track. And back up through turns 1 and 2 for the 16, wondering if he has some wheel damage to that entry. That was a big moment in turn 11, and now we have a truck stopped outside line of turn 11. That's the 00 of Huck Wigington, who is still stopped on the track. Leaders on the way, wondering what race control is going to do here, if they're going to end up throwing a yellow. Here comes your leader, Ted Wade, in the 2. To put Wigington a lap down, and there goes Huck Wigington retiring to the pit lane. But there is your leader. So we go on to lap number 9, the 2 of Ted Wade. We mentioned him setting his own pace, but it's kind of stalled out now at about 2 seconds. Keith Bradley not making up any time, but also not really losing any time to the front driver of Ted Wade at the moment.
You gotta wonder if that's some conservation strategies by Ted Wade, maybe for the long run, or if just Ted Wade is out to enough of a lead now where he knows he can kind of relax and take it easy for the rest of the stage. But what an interesting turn of events here in the last couple of laps. We saw a couple of drivers taking the dive bomb. Joey Doucette got the dive bomb favor repaid on him, but I think he got the worst end of that one. And not only did I think he had some car damage there, Joshua, but I think the tires were heated up from the spin and getting the truck turned back around. And then just when he went to get back up to the gears there, the truck got light on him again and spun around again.
Well, let's take a look at what happened between that McKinnon, Newbert, and Doucette incident. 13 hits the braking zone. It either looks like he just did not realize the braking zone was there, did not brake enough, and ended up dooring into the 16. And Newbert in this whole mess, and we'll go on board with him, sees this happening in front. This is a completely different incident. He was on the brakes, rather hard on the brakes at that, and ended up getting just too much wheel spin and wheel hop out of those tires, and ended up slamming into the tire barrier. And I believe this is when Doucette ended up getting spun around. Yes, he gets pinched by the 4 of Newbert and ends up pounding into the wall there. As we go back live, McKinnon now having to defend by Brady LaBeouf in the 9, as McKinnon sits currently on the timing tower P13, and LaBeouf now going to make a diving move to the inside for P13, and not going to have enough momentum through turn 11, but already only 3 laps to go before we conclude stage 1.
Yeah, 3 laps to go here. Then McKinnon kind of falling back here outside of stage point range now. So, you know, he's got to be a little bit upset by that. And as you mentioned, now getting chased down by the 9 truck of Brady LaBeouf in the 14th position currently. And Brady LaBeouf, another one of those drivers that we've seen in the top 10, top 5 all year long. A little bit outside the top 10 right now, but still a pretty solid run for him. Just probably staying back right now, trying to avoid some of the chaos we're seeing up in front of him, Josh.
With 3 to go in the stage, and ooh, a big loose moment from the driver behind this group. That's the 87 of Justin Lumpkin, and Lumpkin's gonna go way wide off the exit of turn number 5 onto the short chute, and right on around. Robbie Richards in the 48 gonna say thank you very much and move his way into the top 15, but only the top 10 are going to get points for the end of this stage, and Ted Wade will take us on to 2 laps to go in this stage, and the edge of that top 10 currently sits the 4 of Adam Newbert with a solid about 1 second gap over Kilgore behind, as we look to the battle between the number 43 of Blake Lothian and the 5 of Jacob Klinkard. Klinkard trying to go around the outside, and how about ya for the 5 Chevrolet Silverado around the outside at turn 2, put Klinkard into the podium places.
That's a pretty impressive move right there, Josh. Around the outside into the 2 sets you up really well for turn number 3, and especially coming back into turn number 4. But that's really impressive. I've never seen that move done on the outside like that.
That took a lot of grip and a lot of confidence in his race truck to do that maneuver, especially at Sonoma, which is a track that is quite famously known for low grip levels, not only on the iRacing service, but in real life as well. Very, very difficult to get grip here, very difficult to get those Goodyear tires to give you enough grip and momentum to really make outside moves work, and he did that rather perfectly. And looks like an incident for the 19. That's Christopher Blanchard, who will tow back to the pit lane, as white flag will go in the air this time for stage number 1.
We see a battle here now between the 23 of Thomas and the 62 there of Abbott, I believe, on the outside. And Abbott really giving him a run there on the outside as we see trucks now start to move down pit lane. Looks like that was the 43 involved in an incident a little bit earlier, but these two here really battling for position here, coming to the end of the stage, 1 lap to go.
Painter gonna also move back by the 43 of Blake Lothian. That was the entry we saw going down into the pit lane. Wondering if it's a little bit of pit strategy now making its way into this race. Maybe Lothian wanting to lead a couple of laps at the at the beginning of stage number 2 by pitting at the end of stage number 1. But in this battle between Abbott and Thomas is gonna go the way of Brian Abbott in the 82 as the 4th place entry currently. is going to keep that spot as the gap now grows to about 7/10. But the gap for the race lead, 1.5 seconds, and a rather dominating stage victory shaping up for the 2 of Ted Wade. You can see the 29 of Keith Bradley looking and looking, but it's not going to be enough to get this stage win. And the driver that won earlier on this season at Virtual Martinsville is on the road to 2 wins on the season. Stage caution hits, says winning the stage is Ted Wade in the 2. A fantastic run for his Chevrolet Silverado. Pace truck hits onto the track, and typical in NASRA Triple M pulling truck series competition, when we're on the road courses, stage cautions will be called just a touch earlier than that start finish line like they would be on ovals, so we can get that pace truck out onto the track and the field doesn't have to pace for an extra lap. So they'll get behind the iRacing pace truck and it'll be a rather expedited caution here and the stage. But Ted Wade with a stage win, and he is now on track to be the only driver this season with multiple wins and beat Cinnamon, Doucette, and Tyler Dittmer to the punch.
Yeah, we still have a lot of laps to go, don't we, Josh? So not quite one yet, but Ted Wade actually doing a great job here up front. Led all 10 laps, or sorry, 12 laps of that stage. Had a little bit of a moment on the final lap coming through the S's, but was able to get it under control. That's why we saw Keith Bradley there was able to give him a little bit of a run going into the final hairpin, but just a really dominant stage by Ted Wade so far. And like you said, right now, if I had to pick somebody who's going to win this race, it's him, but we still got a lot of laps left.
So under the stage yellow, how many trucks are going to try and come down into the pit lane? We saw Lothian. He only dropped to P16 with the gaps on the track and a full pit stop for him as well. Is anybody going to come down? Wade comes in, Bradley comes in. It looks like everybody on the lead lap going to come into the pit lane. So it looks like fresh Goodyear tires are going to be the priority as they hit the timing line. And Ted Wade leads the entire field down. Who is that staying out? Jacob Klinkart is going to stay out on the track to retake the race lead. I'm wondering if he's going to stay out on the track for this entire caution, but he's going to come in a little later. Dittmer is going to stay out. It looks like everybody back from their pits. Lothian, of course, pitting before the end of the stage will pit. But Lothian is only going to end up P3 as Klinkart and Dittmer take up the front row.
And some interesting strategy calls we're seeing here, Josh. We mentioned that strategy might not be too big of a play right now, but definitely staying out at the end of the stage is a strategy call. And I think if you're going to do it, we've seen so many times drivers try to stay out at the end of the stage on an oval and immediately get eaten by the rest of the field on fresh tires. I would say fresh tires is still a huge advantage here on road courses, but if there's one place where it's easier to hold off a driver on a little bit less for a little bit fresher tires, I think that would be probably here at road course. So not a bad move here by the 5 and the 34 of Tyler Dittmer to get themselves out up front and going to be starting on the front row for when we go back to green here for stage 2.
And interesting to see what the strategy is going to be for stage 2, because when we go back to racing, assuming we see 1 to go this time by, we would end up going green with 11 laps in this stage. If we get 2 to go this time by, we're going to end up with 10 laps to go in the stage when we go back to green. With Klinkart, Dittmer, and it looks like Rivera also staying out. Blake Lothian ends up 4th, pitting before the end of the stage. Ted Wade is going to be the first driver on fresh Goodyear tires, even though you can still kind of call fresh Goodyear tires for Lothian. He ran about a lap under green on those tires. But as it looks like the 33 comes in from a lap down, the fresh tires are going to be a lot on the 2 of Ted Wade. The thing is, none of these drivers needed fuel. They don't need fuel until the end of stage 2. Purely a tire pit stop, but you gotta think that Klinkart, Dittmer, and Rivera now are gonna be on the back foot because they don't have those 4 fresh Goodyear tires. And 4, as the lights go out on the pace truck, for the 11 laps of this stage, they're gonna be really, really fighting to keep that track position.
Yeah, and I'm doing a little bit of math here right now because I'm trying to think of here what possibly might be a different strategy, as well as what I'm thinking is they're trying to possibly put themselves in a position to short pit the third stage, possibly, Josh. Like the end of stage 2 is what I'm thinking here, is maybe if they stay out now, they can pit before the end of stage 2, cycle back up to the lead for the beginning of stage 3. If they do it late enough, that gives them about 29 laps that they have to go on fuel, which is right inside of our window. So you could possibly try to stretch it. I don't know if that's what they're thinking, but one angle to look at possibly as well.
Love it when there's so many different ways these drivers can go about strategy. But Jacob Klinkart will lead this field to the green flag. Tyler Dittmer will be the outside of that opening row. Lothian and Rivera on row 2. Remember, Jose Luis Rivera stayed out under this yellow flag. Blake Lothian came in before the end of stage number 1. He only has about a lap under green on his tires, and then you can look back to Ted Wade, who will be restarting in 5th. He and Keith Bradley, who are on that third row, both came in during this stage. Caution, no laps under green put on both of their sets of Goodyear tires as the lights go back onto the pace truck, and wondering exactly why. EOL penalty was given to Huck Wigington in the 00. I'm wondering if that's to get him into place. It looks like he had to let a good amount of trucks by when he was given that EOL. So they extended the caution by a lap and then was given that penalty. And now they're waiting on him to get to the back of the field. So now this is going to shorten this stage back to about 10 laps when we go back to green on lap 17.
Yeah, this kind of plays more into the strategy of Dittmer and Klinkart, if that's what they're trying to do. And I think possibly the EOL to Huck Wigington too might have been for, I don't know, when he was stopping on the track earlier, Josh. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But yeah, it's going to extend us at least one more lap here, which is quite a long lap at Sonoma under caution.
TJ Moore, working race control, was the one to give that EOL penalty, and we thank him for working race control tonight to give these stage cautions and keep all these drivers in line. And one of the biggest fields we've had for NASRA competition so far, not only this season, but in seasons past, with 36 drivers taking time in qualifying, 35 drivers taking to the starting grid. And excited to see all these drivers running out here on the track, as we see 28 of them still on the lead lap. 29th, 30th, and all the way down to 35th are currently over 1 lap down. Dane Hagen is currently that first driver 1 lap down. He has to fight with Matt Rudder to keep those lucky dog privileges. He also has to fight with Dana Shepard, who also sits 1 lap down, and then Wigington, Hartwick, Blanchard, and Zimmerman 4, 6, 6, and 10 laps down respectively. Now the pace truck will pull into the safety of the pit lane. It's Klinkart and Dittmer on the front row. That 34 of Dittmer on the outside is not the control truck. Control truck is the inside driver of Jacob Klinkart, as we get ready to go back to the green flag. At number 5, Chevy Silverado in control, and there's the green flag. We're underway, 10 laps here in stage 2. We'll see that caution flag fly again on lap number 26. Side by side as Lothian uses those fresh tires, but makes contact with the 34, and off and into the sand he goes. He's able to get it stopped before running into the pack, but fresh tires on the 43 of Lothian. He got a little bit too eager there, made contact with Dittmer and ended up getting turned. Now Lothian has to settle for P26.
Yeah, and that kind of stacked up the field second on back. So now that's even more of a gap here for Jacob Klinkart, who's on older tires. And the more of a gap he can put on the rest of the field, and the more laps he can turn as the leader, those tires become less and less of an advantage, Josh. So this is exactly what he wants to see. It looks like Dittmer there got kind of shoved wide by Keith Bradley going into a turn 7 there, and he's going to make a run coming down the S's here, and he's going to get spot second place now, and he's going to try to chase down Klinkart for first.
Dittmer trying to make that truck as wide as possible for third. Wade gonna have to go the long way around, but he'll have the inside advantage into the right-hander. Can Wade clear him? They touch once to the door, but the 34 holds strong. Dittmer gonna lose out on the spot, but he's able to keep his Dignity is around the outside. He almost was able to hold off Ted Wade, but now here comes the swarm of trucks behind as Rivera looks for that spot. Now he's got Abbott, Thomas, Haney, and Newbert, and he can add Devin Painter, Brady LaBeouf, and more to that story as the 34 Dittmer is able to hold off for P4, but back up the hill, just a sitting duck on those now 17 lap old tires for Dittmer, as up at the front, Jacob Klinkart, also on 18 lap old tires, is trying to hold off a charging Keith Bradley, and more importantly now in a charging Ted Wade, your stage #1 winner, and the fastest truck on the racetrack currently.
Yeah, Klinkart's doing a great job up at front with those old tires, but he's trying to hang on to a losing battle. I think last time by, him and Bradley ran similar lap times. Ted Wade a little bit slower than the two of them, but you can tell definitely on this lap that Bradley has the pace and he's trying to chase him down. A little bit of a loose moment there for Klinkart up front as well, as you see a battle back here farther in the pack. Looks like this is the 5 of Klinkart. Oh, this is the front of the pack here, but yeah, Klinkart got really loose coming down into that section there, and that was able to let Bradley really close the gap on him.
Almost side by side, not able to get there. Remember back to qualifying, Ted Wade, who got the pole, was the only driver in the qualifying session to get into the 117s. It was the high 117s, but he was the only driver to do so. Keith Bradley was also one of the only drivers to get into the 118s. It really is a race, but between the 29 and the 2, as the 5 of Jacob Klinkart currently at the front, not really setting the pace, mainly just trying to set his claim at the front of the field and defend as much as he physically can. Bradley gets a little bit of wheel spin off the exit of 4A, but here's the dive to the bottom in 5. Bradley is going to cover him off, and down to second goes Klinkart. Wade wants a piece of the pie too, as he goes to the inside for second place, and Wade and Bradley now will be battling at the front on fresh tires. Klinkart down back to third.
Yeah, Bradley and Wade, the fresh tires really helping with the drive off, with the shoot, and especially down into the S's here. They're making mincemeat of Klinkart right now, and he's just falling farther and farther into the rear view mirror there of Ted Wade. And Ted Wade was running some really, really good laps really right now. He had the fastest lap last time by 1:18.8, and Keith Bradley had a 1:19.7. So right now it's, like you said, the battle between Bradley and Wade, and give the upper hand to Ted Wade here once he's able to catch Bradley. But one thing to catch him, and quite another thing to pass him, Josh.
Through turn 12, back across the start-finish line, as Derek Kilgore is going to go for a bit of a ride into the apron of turn 11 that is used partially as a turn when the IndyCar Series was here, and now not really used for anything. It was used for the entry to Gilligan's Island, but that's pretty much it. So not exactly where Kilgore wanted to be. He's able to now get back onto the track P13 in front of the 13 truck of Michael McKinnon and the 88 of Lucas Whitehead, who, gotta admit, the 88, with the struggles he had in stage #1 in after the pit stop, now running P15 after starting P27. Not the best pace in qualifying, but that race pace is there as he currently runs inside the top 15 and looking for more on the 13.
Yeah, definitely an up and down day for Whitehead, that's for sure. But that is kind of one of the luxuries you have here of a road course, is if you do run into trouble, yeah, you might lose a lot of positions, but you can come to pit road and not lose a lap, and then when things shake out at the stage breaks, you could really gain a lot of positions. So maybe not exactly the day that he was looking for, but can't be too disappointed as we see one car spinning in the hairpin, Josh.
That looks like the 00 going around. That's Huck Wigington. He'll fall now from 4 laps down to 5 laps down as he lets the majority of this front group go by. And in a battle there, around they go. That's the 23 of Stephen Thomas, the tail end of the Dittmer and Abbott battle. Remember, Dittmer is still trying to defend for P4 with 21 lap-old tires now. Jose Luis Rivera, on the same pit strategy as both Dittmer and Klinkart, on 21 lap-old tires as well, has fallen from P3 at the restart to P11 on the racetrack. Dittmer went from 2nd to 4th, about to be 5th if Abbott can complete this move, and yes, he can. No, he can't. As I say that, gets loose on the inside, and the power around the outside for Tyler Dittmer. As I was saying, Dittmer went from second to fourth, only lost 2 spots. Klinkart from first to third has also lost 2 spots. And who is that around going up the hill? That looks to be the number 33 entry that goes around and into the sand. It looks like more troubles for that number 33 machine as he'll fall a little bit now on the timing.
And Josh, I talked during the stage break a little bit about how it's easier to hang on to these positions on a road course than it is at maybe an oval with a little bit worn tires, or as worn tires as the leaders or Klinkart and the others have right now. But another thing to keep in mind as well is it's not just your tire wear, it's your ability to hang on to a line. As we see Dittmer here is able to get pushed into a non-favorable position. That's how the pass is able to be made on him. But that's so important here to road course as well. If you're able to hang onto the preferred line, it's way easier to hang on to your tires. And it looks like the 26 truck is around, and that's a tough spot because it's hard to see coming through there, Josh.
The 26 now, the next driver to go around. That's Cody Knott that goes around, is currently P27 as Steven Thomas now sees Keith Haney behind, and now is the next driver to try and get by Tyler Dittmer in the number 34. I will say, with now 5 to go in this stage, it wasn't as bad of an idea, Ian, as I think I originally thought, because yes, for Jose Luis Rivera might not have been the best, maybe just not the best at handling worn tires, but it seems like both Klinkart and Dittmer had enough confidence in both the setup they have on the truck as well as their own racecraft to be able to hold on at the front of the field with worn tires. I mentioned Klinkart has only fallen 2 spots. He's gone first to third. Dittmer has only fallen 3 spots, second to fifth.
Yeah, really, and not bad so far. When you make that strategy call, and I think in the back of the head, you know you're not going to hang on to the lead for the entire stage, or maybe hang on to a top 5 position, but it's all about track position here, especially at road courses. And then, as we talked about earlier, Josh, especially with the 1 extra caution lap, they can make it on fuel with a short pit strategy. So really good job there by Klinkart and Dittmer to kind of get themselves off the strategy, back in the pack there, get themselves up to the front, and really work on the track position game that's so key here on road course racing.
Now the battle for the lead is starting to brew as Ted Wade makes a small mistake at the exit of turn 6, gets a little bit loose, and now loses a good bit of time to Keith Bradley. The 29 of Bradley looking to go to victory lane for the first time so far this season, and one of the drivers that is on the cut line in. He's tied with Devin Painter coming into tonight on that cut line. Of course, with stage points now and points as they currently run, yes, he's sitting above that cut line, and I believe he'd overtake Christopher Blanchard even to get a little bit of a cushion, but it's win and you're in. If he wins, he is locked into the playoffs, doesn't have to worry about a single cut line for the rest of the season, and I think that's really what is on the mind of Keith Bradley, as I mentioned how much Ted Wade pulled away at the front, as we see the 17 go for a bit of a spin. That's Brandon Bullock now going through the S's, and looks like Adam Newbert into more trouble at the apron of turn 11. But as I was saying about Keith Bradley, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, at the beginning of stage 1, as Painter goes around, middle of the track, that's going to be a tough one to try and spin back. It looks like he might have a small opening. Full lock on the wheel to try and get it to turn fully, and he is back going. Let's see if I can get this point out now. So Ted Wade, at the beginning of the stage number 1, pulled away to the tune of about 2.5 seconds right off the green flag. Keith Bradley was able to chip away by about a second and then kind of stay there. So they're kind of equal on just total race pace. So Bradley, as long as he can get in front of Ted Wade, defend well, I don't think the two has that much of a speed difference, as now Jose Luis Rivera, the other driver on worn tires, goes around.
Well, yeah, it's really going to come down to pit stops and really that battle down pit road. We're getting on and off pit road as quickly as you possibly can, and staying in front of Ted Wade, as you mentioned, especially on this next stop, Josh, is going to be imperative to keep him in the lead of this race. And yeah, if I'm Keith Bradley, I don't care about points or anything like that. I'm going to get this win, and so I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the season, because it allows you to just have so much more freedom and confidence as a driver. You may go out there and snap off another 2 or 3 wins. It kind of reminds me of, we saw Kyle Larson last year, got to win early and ended up getting about, I think, 11 wins on the season. So if you win early, it definitely boosts the confidence, and then you don't have to worry about anything for the rest of the regular season, Josh.
2 to go in the stage. The 88 pulls into the pit lane, and same strategy, different stage for Blake Lothian in the 43. I mentioned how he pit with 1 to go in the first stage of the night. He'll do the same about 1 lap earlier this time for Lothian in the 43. Looking to get his last pit stop out of the way, because where we currently stand, 31 to go, that sits just inside of the fuel window. 28 to 32 laps is side by side now, Stephen Thomas and Keith Haney in the number 78. But sitting just at the cusp of that fuel window, Ian, it's risky, but if he saves enough, he'll be fine, and Ted Wade is going to do the exact same thing. The 2 is into the pit lane with 1 to go in stage 2.
Oh, that's very interesting by Ted Wade there, because that kind of undercuts Keith Bradley for the lead coming back to the stage if everybody else pits on cycle. So interesting play there by Ted Wade, and we were just talking about how they were equal on pace, and it's going to come down to track position. I think that's a track position play we see right there, Josh.
So Ted Wade into the pit lane, expecting him to stay out under the stage caution, basically gifting this stage win now to Keith Bradley. And it wasn't all lost for both Klinkart and Dittmer, because with Wade coming into the pit lane especially, that moves Klinkart up back into P2, and that's going to move Dittmer up into P number 4. It's a little bit of a close battle between himself and Stephen Thomas as we take a look at that now, but if Dittmer can hold on, solid top 5 points in the stage. Here's the move for Stephen Thomas to the inside, door slam between the 2. Dittmer trying to now move out of the way as Stephen Thomas gets the spot, and Dittmer is all over the place, loses the spot to Haney to P6.
Yeah, Dittmer really having a tough time right now through the S's, getting the truck to settle down, and that's not a fun spot to lose control of your truck, Josh, because the weight is shifting back and forth, kind of get a tank slapper effect in there. I'm sure you and I are used to seeing that happen in the off-road world, but you almost got a little bit of that here at Sonoma with the trucks.
And that'll be the end of stage number 2 as the yellow flag comes back out, nearing halfway done with the evening. And how about Keith Bradley, stage number 2 winner here from virtual Sonoma. The 82 of Brian Abbott will finish 3rd. Jacob Klinkart comes home 2nd, and Stephen Thomas, Keith Haney going to round out the top 5 in that stage. But the 5 of Klinkart holding on worn tires. Dittmer also holds on to the top 10 spot to be able to grab some stage points, and that 34 ends up P6 at the end of this stage. As everybody comes across the line now to take that yellow flag, Ted Wade in the 2 has now fallen to P15 after pitting before the end of stage number 1. And a strategy that paid off for Klinkart and Dittmer to get some points, but I don't know if it's really worth it for the 2 of Ted Wade, because if you think about it, Ian, Klinkart and Dittmer, I don't want to say struggled for pace, but they definitely were not the fastest trucks on the track. Ted Wade has the fastest lap of the race so far at a 1:18.4. That is over 1 second faster than anybody else in this field, and he's chosen to come into the pit lane.
Well, to me, that's a move for the race win, right? Because he's looking for the track position, and he's looking to be back out in front after the rest of these pit stops cycle through. So I'm pretty sure Ted Wade's going for the win here, and that kind of makes sense. He doesn't have to win to get in, so might as well, right? It doesn't really matter if you mess up too badly here because you're already in the playoffs. What surprises me, actually, is now we see the 5 of Klinkart coming to pit road, and I think the 34 of Dittmer as well, is they didn't pit early. I thought that was their strategy as well. They were going to pit early here on stage 2 and then cycle to the front for stage 3, but they didn't do that. They kind of stayed out of the back of the pack. So another thing that kind of nullifies that strategy, because once this cycles out, they might be back there in 10th, 11th, 12th, Josh. So kind of some interesting moves we're seeing here, and we'll see how it pays off at the end of the race. There's still a lot of laps to go, and there might be something we don't know here up in the booth that they know.
So pretty much the exact thing that we were expecting. Wade stayed out. He'll assume the race lead. Everybody back from there pulls into their pit stall. And out first will be the 29 of Keith Bradley. And That strategy of no tires and not pitting at the end of stage number 1 has definitely now paid off for Jacob Klinkart as he ends up in P number 2 off the exit of the pit lane. He'll restart P3 with Abbott, Thomas, Haney, Dittmer, Gregory, LaBeouf, and McKinnon gonna round out the current top 10 as we go back under the pace truck. But to the lead goes Ted Wade. 1 lap under green on those Goodyear tires. Maybe in the long run could be in effect, but at the current moment, it'll be Ted Wade on essentially the exact same tires as everybody else in this field. Devin Painter, don't worry about him in the 99. He's 1 lap down. He'll be looking to enter into the pit lane in just a moment. But Ted Wade in the lead, Keith Bradley in second now. How aggressive do you think Bradley's gonna be in that second spot? Because remember the original start of this race, he fell back about 3 seconds from the race lead and had to crawl all of that back. If he can stay close to Wade on this restart, he might have a shot at that lead a lot sooner and not gonna let Ted Wade get too far out of range.
Oh, I think if you're Keith Bradley, yeah, you have to go right off the drop of the green flag and try to get in front of Ted Wade as soon as you possibly can. We saw Ted Wade earlier get out to a lead on Keith Bradley, and as you mentioned, Josh, he was able to kind of chip away and equalize the pace after a few laps. But I think that's also why it's so imperative for Keith Bradley to get in front of Ted Wade, is because their pace is going to equalize out. And as you mentioned earlier, whoever's in front is going to be the ringleader essentially for the rest of this race into possibly a final pit stop. So you got to go if you're Keith Bradley, and you got to get that spot as soon as you can.
I think it's time to go for a lot of drivers in this field, right? Because 27 laps to go. We just crossed over lap number 29. We'll go green with 26 laps remaining. No guaranteed full course cautions. With live race control, it still is possible, but we're not really expecting it to be. We'll go green flag racing with 25 to go, and that's all gonna be under green. No pit stops, and this will be the longest green flag run that we have on the speedway. With no guaranteed pit stops in this stage, everybody's gonna have to make their tires last, which at this track, how abrasive it is, how low grip it is going to be a challenge, especially for those drivers that have speed at the front. They need to make sure they don't burn off all the rubber they have.
Well, especially if you're going to be farther back in the pack, as we might have had one truck possibly having an incident here. Yeah, we've got one truck off track here. I can't really see who that is right this second, but the 3 truck, it looks like, off track right now. And yeah, that's hard to get up that hill, especially with the dry grass here in Northern California. Not a lot of traction around here, Josh.
In a rallycross car, you might have had a little bit more traction, but unfortunately these NASCAR Truck Series machines don't really work the best under off-road conditions, unless of course they have the dirt tires on. And we'll see NASRA go dirt racing for, I believe, the first time in series history at Eldora Speedway in just a couple of weeks time. But the lights were put back onto the pace truck just a couple of moments ago, and now they'll go back to turned off on the iRacing pace truck, and now we'll be going back to racing with 25 to go. That looks to be the 26 of Cody Knott catching up. That's the number 8 of Adam Cantwell also catching up to the back of the pacing field. But it will be Wade and Lothian on the front row. Blake Lothian doing the same exact strategy he did at the end of stage 1, and the same exact strategy that Ted Wade eventually ended up doing, where both of them pitted before the end of the stage, before pit lane closed. And Lothian now up at the front. Haven't really seen much of him up here yet. He qualified P4. We know he's got speed. Now he has an opportunity to prove it.
Yeah, and another thing I always forget here too on iRacing, Josh, it's a little bit easier to take those risky pit stop strategies when you know that your pit crew's not going to make a mistake. So another ace in the cap there for Klinkart and Dittmer there when taking the no tire strategy. If you know your pit crew's not going to make a mistake and you're not going to have any trouble on pit road, a lot easier to take that risky move for strategy probably.
A risky move indeed it was, as the 2 of Ted Wade will be the control truck on this restart. Blake Lothian in the 2 on the outside of that front row. But how aggressive is Bradley going to be? How aggressive is Klinkart going to be? How aggressive is Brian Abbott going to be? Look at that top 5. I'll go a little bit further. Look at the entire top 10. None of them have gone to victory lane this season. I'll go a little bit further. Top 15. I'll go one more. Top 16. All of them have not gone to victory lane this season except for the 2 of Ted Wade. He is the only driver currently scored in the top 16 that has an opportunity to win multiple races this season. Everybody else looking to capture their first checkered flag of this season of competition. Green flag is back out, 25 laps to go. Wade takes the lead, and Keith Bradley very quickly up and back into P2, trying to set his eyes on the 2 Chevrolet Silverado in front now.
Yeah, a little bit of a moment there for Ted Wade, but it actually worked in his favor as Bradley had to check up there. And so, yeah, Bradley's going to try to give chase to Ted Wade now again, but a great move there on Lothian off the start to put himself into a position to be able to chase down Ted Wade, because talked about how fast he had to make the move on Ted Wade. But if you're stuck behind 2 or 3 cars there, Josh, that's just another couple of moves you have to make your way up to the front.
Field working their way down the short chute. Brady LaBeouf in the 9 is going to go for a bit of a trip around at the exit of 5. He'll fall now outside the top 20. The driver, 100 points good to the cut line. Gonna take a good chunk out of that now if he cannot work his way back up through the field. Top 26 sit on the lead lap as we see the field snake their way through the S's. Stephen Thomas falling to 8th, looking to now work his way around Robbie Richards in the 48. The 88 of Lucas Whitehead goes for a trip through the dust, and now to the outside, going into turn 11. A little bit of cone destruction as the 48 looks to the inside with the 23, 80, 78, and more in tow.
Oh man, outside in turn 11 is definitely someplace you don't want to be, and worked out there for Lucas Whitehead, but definitely not a spot that you want to be in there. And that was kind of a Code Brown moment on the rejoin a little bit, but everybody made it through it okay. But now the 88 of Whitehead is under attack by Haney there, and Haney trying to make his way back up to the front.
A good save by the 88 as well. Only lost out on a spot to Stephen Thomas at turn 11. So the 88 falls to P8. Here comes Haney back looking to the bottom and can't get there in the braking zone of turn 5. Back across the short chute they go. At the front, gap has grown between Wade and Bradley. Same exact story we saw at the start of stage number 1. Gap now 1.6 seconds between the 2. That's not a good rejoin for the 8 of Adam Cantwell. He made contact with, I believe, that was the 26 of Cody Knott that he made contact with. Actually, might have been the 33 entry. He made contact with a truck on the rejoin. Luckily, that was not too bad of a rejoin that it led to an incident, but either way, could have been a lot worse as we see a lot of movement now. Too wide, a little bit of contact around that P10 spot, and even a little bit further back with Newbert and Doucette as the 3rd, 4th, and 5th drivers battle. Here's that mid-group battle in the field, and all of them were bouncing off of each other at the exit of turn 11, and it looks like the 88 of Lucas Whitehead is looking to go somewhere further up into the top 10 as Dittmer just made a pass on him for 9th.
And we've watched this all night long, Josh. It's kind of a 1, 2, 3 strung out at the front of the field, but back here, or way back between probably like 6th through 9th, it's always been a battle, and these guys are really working back here trying to get their trucks in front of these other drivers, and you really got to claw your way for every single position here, especially once you get into the median of the field. The lap time starts to even out, and it's a lot tougher racing once you're back here, as we see how hectic it can get coming through turn 7.
Side by side, and the 4 of Newbert is going to cover off the spot over as a 61 of Stephen Gregory, and he made that move on. And Whitehead's going to go around, and hard contact into the tire barrier for the 88 Chevy Silverado. And that is huge contact, and he's inevitably going to have to bring that 88 into the pit lane, as that was a huge hit to the tire barrier. Another mistake at this track that is known for making the mistakes out of these drivers, and unfortunately the 88 making a large one there with a big hit to the inside wall.
Yeah, heavy damage to the front of that Ford F-150 there, and you can make contact with that tire barrier, Josh, but you usually don't want to make it with your nose. That's usually going to end up being some steering damage, and even worse, possibly some engine damage. So not too much there, as we see another truck off through turn 2 there. I'm not sure who that was. Looks like it was I think that's Kilgore again. I think it was Kilgore off again, Josh. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Looks to be Derek Kilgore off again, and he'll fall to P18 in that number 11 entry. Wade still in the lead by 1.5 seconds. Now 22 laps to go, and seeing these drivers now in stage 3 they really have to conserve those tires, and we're seeing a lot of drivers kind of back it down, not exactly be super aggressive. But of course, as I say that, Keith Bradley last time by just had the fastest lap of the race at a 1:18.323, still trying to slowly chip away at Ted Wade's lead, but that's going to be difficult. Ted Wade with 2 lap older tires than Keith Bradley, but with most of those laps being under yellow, only 1 green flag lap in difference between the 2 of those tire sets. Bradley's not going to get much of a gift on the 2 of Ted Wade. He's going to have to beat him in outright pace, which at the moment he's doing, but albeit by just a couple of hundredths here, a couple of thousandths there. It's not really making up a substantial amount with 21 to go.
No, it's not, and it seems like every time that Keith Bradley is able to get himself a lap that closes the gap a little bit on Ted Wade just puts on a lap his own that just equals it right again. So as we mentioned so many times in this race, their pace is about the same, and the tire thing I don't even think is really something to worry about, because as you mentioned, most of the laps are ran under caution that Ted Wade has on his tires there. So really I think it's going to be coming down to a mistake from Ted Wade, or really just a yellow or some kind of other. Something's going to happen for Bradley to have to catch Ted Wade is basically what I'm trying to say here, Josh. And right now it doesn't look like anything's going to happen.
I definitely agree with you. Of course, a race control full course yellow is going to kind of throw this race on its head, but we would need a very, very large pileup and a track blockage essentially for that to happen. But mistake from Ted Wade there, just dropped the gap a little bit down to a second as Doucette makes contact with Adam Newbert in the 4, sending the 4 for a bit of a slide, but able to counter correct, saves it in that Ford F-150, and now they'll continue to fight for that edge of the top 10. And how about this 6 truck battle? Newbert, Doucette, Gregory, Pitts, McKinnon, and Morales put a blanket over him, separated by about 2 seconds on the racetrack.
And it looks like it's been that way the entire race as well, especially with the 4 of Neubert and the 16 of Doucette. You saw them almost possibly get into each other again there, and they've been next to each other all night long. They've been neighbors, but they haven't been the friendliest of neighbors, Josh. You see the damage on both their trucks right now. It's been a beating and banging race for those 2.
They all dive into the short chute again as Doucette able to get into the top 10. Newbert falls after a little bit of contact between the 2. Stephen Gregory in the 61 stuck in the middle of this field as around goes the 16 of Doucette. That was a big moment at the exit of turn number 6. Doucette in the 16 just completely loses the truck when getting back to the throttle, and gives P10 back to Newbert, and that'll move Doucette now back and outside of the top 20 to P22, and that 16 truck looks very, very upset. He even almost lost it again, getting back up to speed.
Yeah, and he had the initial spin, and then when he was kind of trying to save it, he overcorrected and smashed the front end into the wall. So interested to see if there's any steering damage on that 16 truck as well. No trip to pit road this time, but we've got a battle here between the 9 of Brady LaBeouf and the 88 of Lucas Whitehead. And a 9 of Brady LaBeouf goes around. We've seen that a few times tonight, Josh.
Off the exit of turn 11, getting back on the throttle here at Sonoma, especially once those tires start to wear, is incredibly difficult to do. The little bit of overcast help we're getting now, it's going to cool that track temp down. It's going to help these drivers a little bit. I remember back a couple of years ago, back when I raced a lot more often than I do now, racing the NASCAR iRacing series at Sonoma, and when I got into the session, seeing that track temp at about 112, I think I was about ready to cry, and it was an open session as well. There was just no helping the grip level that we were going to have. So these drivers out here with a little bit of overcast, it's going to help them a little bit in the grip department, but we just saw from Ted Wade get a little bit loose there off the exit of 11. It's not enough.
Yeah, and when you're racing side by side with another driver, your adrenaline starts to flow and you might get on the gas a little harder than you were meaning to. And I think that's exactly what happened to Brady LaBeouf. But yeah, you mentioned it. The hot California sun can beat down on this racetrack, Josh, and an already gripless track can even get that much more slick and hard to handle. So this overcast is definitely a little bit of a godsend for these drivers. But we still see another truck here, the 33 around. It's not enough for everybody, as you mentioned.
The 33 goes around again. That's Matt Rudder in the 33. Side by side between the 88 of Whitehead and looks to be the 16 of Doucette behind him, as to the inside of the 87 that both of those trucks go. That's Justin Lumpkin getting out of the way for the battle now for 19th between Whitehead and the 16 of Doucette. Lumpkin falls to P21 as they work their way back up the hill of turn 3. And this is at the edge of the top 20. Growing now in the battle for the lead, it's Wade and Bradley. No drama there. It's about 5 seconds back now to Jacob Klinkart in third. And you have to go back about a couple tenths to find Brian Abbott. You have to go back about 3 seconds to find Stephen Thomas at the edge of the top 5. Keith Bradley lost a good bit of time on that lap, wondering if it was a little bit of a mistake in, and we've been talking about minimizing the mistakes all night, and that's especially what Bradley needs to do now, because we mentioned how unless we get a random full course yellow from the race officials, he's not going to get any help. And there's the mistake through turn 6, almost lost it, was able to save it, but lost a ton of speed.
And you saw how close he was to Ted Wade there. And when you talk about the adrenaline, once you get close to another driver, it's so hard to stay under control of your braking and throttle inputs. And really good job there by Bradley to hang on to the truck and through the corner again this time. A really nice job. A little bit of a wiggle there coming out of it, but that's to be expected, especially getting back onto the gas here, especially at Sonoma. But yeah, he's just going to have to, all that work he did to chase Ted Wade down, he's going to start all over again on it, Josh. And I don't think Keith Bradley has had the luxury of saving his tires as much as Ted Wade has at the lead. He's been trying to chase Ted Wade down this entire time, so I would have to assume his tire is a little bit more worn out than Ted Wade's right now.
17 to go. Will be 16 laps to go this time by the start finish line. Bradley able to gain a little bit more time back, as it looks like an issue for the 16 of Joey Doucette, as he now is going to get pushed wide by Lucas Whitehead. What we thought was a connection problem for the 16, it looks like he might have had that, but it was also at the same time trying to battle the 88 of Doucette, or the 88 of Whitehead, and got pushed wide off and into the dust. More problems for the 16, P21 now on the racetrack.
And he's still staying out there, though, it looks like, unless he dives to pit road this time. So trying to make the most of it that he can with Joey Doucette. But yeah, it seems like if it's one problem, it compounds into another for him tonight, Josh.
And Doucette still looking like that 16 just is not working the way that he would like it to. And like Lothian with a big moment there as he was battling with Tyler Dittmer in the 34. And I believe Tyler Dittmer might have capitalized on a mistake by the 43 of Blake Lothian, and that is how we ended up with the 43 losing on a spot. And we did. He had a mistake going up the hill, completely missed the braking zone of, it looked to be turn 3, and ended up way off track at turn 4. And Tyler Dittmer was able to pull right on around and end up P7 on the racetrack. 15 to go as Wade puts yet another lap down, and time running out for all of these drivers on this racetrack. But Klinkart still with a good momentum shift in that number 5 camp, trying to hold off the 82 of Brian Abbott. But who would have thought a decent qualifying effort of P5 put him up here in, but now as we run further and further into this race, it's been relatively mistake-free for Klinkart, and he's looking at one of his best finishes in his NASRA career.
Well, you put it perfectly when you said mistake-free. He really hasn't had any times, you haven't seen him being one of the drivers that is spinning off the racetrack or anything like that. Just a smooth, consistent drive all night long for him, and a nice little pit call strategy was able to get him some track position, and he finds himself in P3. He is trying to have to battle off Adam right now, who looks like he's got a little bit more speed than him in the 82 truck right now, but really good night for that 5 truck, and as you mentioned, kind of a momentum shift of his season so far this year.
And Clinkart with some good defense on Brian Abbott in the 82. Hasn't been able to get by him just yet as they go back to turn 11. A defensive line there from Clinkart, and it looked to be late braking for him as well, as they will not be side by side as they go across the start finish line. Give that spot still to Jacob Clinkart. They sit about 7.5 seconds, excuse me, off of your current leader in Ted Wade, but this battle for the edge of the podium places is worth a lot of points, especially when you add that on to Clinkart's stage points as well as Brian Abbott's. Abbott gets aggressive to the inside in turn 3, and the 82 is now up and into the podium places.
Yeah, Clinkart there had a little bit of a mistake with his drive off on turn 2, and that was able to open the door for Brian Abbott and able to sneak in there on turn 3, had the preferred line. Really good move there to make the pass.
Through turn 6 they go now, and Abbott able to pull a little bit of a gap over Clinkart as Clinkart gets really loose off the exit of that corner. Stephen Thomas in the 23 also now trying to gain back a little bit of time and trying to get further into the top 5 in the points for the 23 of Stephen Thomas. Well, first of all, Brian Abbott outside the cut line with a great run tonight here on the Sonoma road course. He's looking at a really good effort to get up and in above that cut line. Stephen Thomas in the 23, 75 points to the good. This is only going to help him. Brady LaBeouf in his struggles, 100 plus to the cut line. He's going to have a big chunk taken out of that insurance, with Keith Haney as well running P6, 93 good to the cut line when we began tonight, is also going to end up with some good and much needed points. Jose Luis Rivera, 22, good to the cut line. He's going to have a lot of taken out of that one as well. Keith Bradley tied for the cut line, currently running in second. The only thing better for him would be a win, but if you're not going to get the win, Ian, maximum points in second place is all you can really ask for.
Yeah, you still have to do it the hard way, but that really definitely makes a big chunk of it there, and getting yourself to the cut line, that gives you some good momentum heading into a few tracks that are known for first-time winners. I think Talladega, when I think about that, they're coming up in a few weeks. You got to think the 29 camp is going to be looking there for their next possibility to get a win if they can't get it done tonight, but a really good points night for the 29 squad, and you got to imagine they're going to be really happy about that.
13 to go, about to be 12 to go, as we look at that 29 of Keith Bradley, still winless this season. Has been close, but has not been able to win yet at Daytona, Homestead, Martinsville, or Nashville Super Speedway. With a wild card, actually I'll say 2 wild card tracks in a row, because we have Sonoma tonight and then Talladega in 1 week's time. A road course and a super speedway. You cannot get more wild card than a road course and a super speedway. I think tonight, with these fast drivers on a road course, I think of Keith Bradley, even though he's fast really everywhere. I think of Ted Wade, even though he's been one of the most dominant trucks this season. But I look at Clinkart, I look at Abbott, I look at Haney, I look at Stephen Thomas a little bit, even though he's another consistent driver, as drivers that can come into these wild card events, specifically at a road course, and take home a lot of much needed points. I think Ted Wade is looking for that, as Lothian gets very aggressive on Dittmer. How about Lothian up into P7?
Yeah, Lothian making a heck of a move there on Dittmer up the corner there, and Dittmer's not letting him go that easily. He's going to try to make the dive back to the inside coming down the chute. Both drivers side by side there give the advantage a little bit to the 43 truck, and it looks like Dittmer there is going to have his work cut out for him trying to chase him down. But you mentioned how eclectic the mix of tracks is on the schedule though, Josh, and yeah, a lot of these drivers on the iRacing service, and I don't mean this as an insult to anybody, especially a lot of the oval drivers, are a little bit one-faceted. You know, they can race on the ovals, but they might not be able to race at the road courses. If you put the time and effort into the road courses and some of those wild card tracks, that can really pay dividends for you. And we're seeing that for a few drivers tonight, as we see Dittmer there getting really loose trying to get to the inside of Lothian.
Dittmer wants that spot. Hits the apex of turn 11, trying to push him wide off the exit. That's not going to work in the 43. And Lothian holds on to P7 as Dittmer looks to get further up and into the points-paying positions. With his one win this season, really just going for bragging rights now as they go back up the hill through 1 and 2. How about at the tail end of this battle now, Stephen Gregory, he's looking for his best finish of this season and looking for more much needed points. He wasn't even in the top 20 of the points when we began this evening. If he gets further up into the top 10, we could very well see him flirting with that cut line.
Yeah, Stephen Gregory been upside in the top 10, quietly poking around all night long, just trying to stay out of everybody's way and get a good finish for himself, and he's doing a great job of that so far. But going back to Tyler Dittmer, I think he's been the most aggressive driver we've seen all night, Josh, not just with his offensive moves, but with his defending as well. When there's a truck in his rearview mirror, he makes that 34 truck very wide, and it's very hard to pass him.
And Dittmer now going to hold off for the moment for Stephen Gregory as we go inside of 10 laps to go in tonight's race. Keith Bradley, they've been minor mistakes, but they have been mistakes. Falls to 4.8 seconds, now 5 seconds behind Ted Wade. And unless the two makes a pretty major mistake, it's going to be quite a walk-off victory for the two of Ted Wade. Not to try and jinx him or anything, but anything can happen in 10 laps, especially in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, and especially at Sonoma Raceway. And remind you again of what is really at stake for this race win for the two of Ted Wade. The only driver to win multiple races this season would be him if he takes home this checkered flag, as Stephen Gregory is now flirting with the back bumper of the 34 of Tyler Dittmer. As Dittmer gets loose, that opens the door for Stephen Gregory.
Yeah, and Stephen Gregory there didn't even really have to make a move on Dittmer, just stayed behind him, ran some consistent laps, and waited for the mistake. It was able to easily just drive past him there. It's going to be interesting to see if Stephen Gregory can keep up the pace and stay in front of the 34 now, because it seems as soon as somebody passes the 34, he's able to get a little bit more speed in that truck. But right now, Stephen Gregory doing a great job. We mentioned just the quiet drive from him all night long, just chipping away at more positions here in the latter half of this race.
9 laps to go, and we still watch this middle field battle as Stephen Gregory moves his way up into P8. He's got the 43 of Lothian in front. How about that moment on the 61 of Stephen Gregory? A wild save, now trying to defend on Tyler Dittmer. Back to the inside line in turn 11. He's able to do it as Dittmer gets not quite as cattywampus as the 61 did off the exit of turn 10, but still a big moment for him as they'll dive back through turn 1.
Yeah, a heck of a save there for Gregory, and the one saving grace was he was able to have the preferred line going in the turn 11, the hairpin there, and was able to seal off Dittmer. But Dittmer again on the back bumper of that 61 truck. He's not going to let him go easily.
Not going to let him go easily is right. With 9 to go, Ted Wade, Keith Bradley, the top two. I'm wondering now, with that gap falling to less than a second between Bradley and Abbott, if Bradley keeps making more mistakes with what is admittedly now 19-lap-old tires, which is the oldest that we have run a set of tires so far tonight, if we might see a battle between Bradley and Abbott for that second spot. 8 laps to go at the line this time, and Ted Wade looks for race win number 2 on the season, and relatively close together as well. He only got his first win of the season last week at Martinsville Speedway, but in this season, he really has been the talk of the town with a great start at Daytona, a great run at Homestead Miami Speedway, where he led most of the opening stages, and finally getting that win at Martinsville is it's another issue for Derek Kilgore. Ted Wade has been the talk in NASRA 360 for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, had that move to propel his teammate to the win at Daytona, and then after that, it's just been the Ted Wade show. He's been leading laps, he's been winning races, he's been up in the top 5 almost every single week, it seems like. And if we were talking about the battle between Abbott and Bradley last time by, Keith Bradley was almost a second slower than Brian Abbott. So I think that battle that you alluded to between the two might manifest itself here, though. It seems like Abbott may have made a mistake. That gap is a little bit up over 2 seconds now, Josh.
7 to go this time by. And once again, with Ted Wade looking for the first multiple win count of the season. That's also going to help him when it comes to the playoffs, because with everybody having one win, if we do get to the point where we see us run out of playoff spots due to wins, it is possible. If we do end up having that happen, he'll basically have his spot claimed with 2 race wins if we fill up the win count the rest of the way down through the playoffs. And it just means more bonus points to start the playoffs as well. Each win means bonus playoff points to begin the playoffs, and in theory, if you get enough wins, you could just scoot your way through the Sweet 16 round at Michigan, Coda, and Kansas and be locked in to the Elite 8 at Daytona and Bristol before the playoffs even begin.
Well, so we see a spin there in front of Ted Wade. Looks like that's Brady LaBeouf again. Just a tough night for him so far. He's been... Anytime he seems to get himself into a really solid position there, Josh, it seems like something else like that happens to him again. And unfortunately, that time it was right in front of the leaders. A little bit of a scary moment there for Ted Wade, but able to navigate it safely.
6 to go when Ted Wade comes back across the line. And a mistake for Ted Wade has moved Keith Bradley closer to him. But now with the 99 of Devin Painter, and we know Painter's not going to surrender easy, as he'll move out of the way for these two. He actually will surrender pretty easily there. The 29 of Keith Bradley. All that I've known Devin Painter, he has been a great defensive driver, and I guess 1 lap down, he's not going to really fight them that much. So he'll let Bradley and Abbott go, but if this battle between Bradley and Abbott gets any closer, we could have a fight for those second place points, which can be crucial towards those playoffs. And right as Bradley was able to gain back about a couple seconds with Ted Wade running away and making a mistake, seconds with Ted Wade running away and making a mistake, Abbott has not been able to claim much time on Keith Bradley. That gap's been staying at about 1 second between second and third place.
Yeah, Bradley was getting reeled in by Abbott there for a few laps, but now the pace has kind of equalized himself. And yeah, maybe Painter there wasn't the most aggressive on the racetrack, Josh, but I know what he is defending. He's defending best paint scheme for sure. That Burton-inspired 99 XI truck, it's looking really sharp. So maybe giving some spots on the racetrack here with 6 to go to the leaders, but definitely not giving up on the paint scheme game, that's for sure.
I will definitely agree with you there. Definitely one of the sharpest looking paint schemes in the field. And I remember him in his opening season running a Kevin Harvick Incorporated Hunt Brothers Pizza entry, running the Ford F-150. Now changing over the Chevy Silverado and a throwback Jeff Burton scheme as well. Staying sharp, and unfortunately not the run Painter was really looking for tonight. And he sat, I should say, tied on the cut line with the driver we're looking at right now, defending from Brian Abbott of Keith Bradley, with Keith Bradley's stage 2 win, and now solid run in stage 1 and 3, looking for a second place overall finish. That'll move him way above the cut line, and unfortunately with Painter being 1 lap down, scored P23, that's just going to make the cut line even more interesting when we go racing at Talladega. But with 5 to go, Abbott's looking aggressive, but he doesn't have much to fight with the 29 unless Bradley makes another mistake. And there it was. There's the contact. And Abbott to the inside, side by side through the S's, move the 82 to second.
Yeah, the 29 may not be too happy about that, but that's almost a textbook bump and run right there. That's kind of just stock car racing, especially on a road course here. With that move, Abbott able to move himself into the second podium spot. Bradley there still hanging on in third. Still a good battle here going on between these two, and about 5 or 7 seconds back to Klinkart there in fourth. So really going to be a battle between these two, I think, Josh, for the rest of the race for that second podium spot.
4 laps to go, and it's still a dominating lead for the 2 of Ted Wade at the front. Abbott and Bradley now sit second and third. Abbott with a great move over Keith Bradley and a little bit of contact as well. It looked a little bit clean to me, Ian, because the 29 was the one to make the mistake there and kind of give 82 gave him a little bit of a nudge mid-corner, probably not on purpose, but still made that contact. And now Abbott into second, looking for his best finish of the season and to also get above the cut line. He sat 3 under at the start of this race.
Yeah, and there's a difference there. As you see a moment from the 29, a great save there back in the background. I thought he was going around, but there's a bit of a difference, as we all know, between a bump and then just straight dumping somebody. And that definitely wasn't dumping somebody there by Brian Adam. That was a little bit of a bump. And as you mentioned there, it may not even have been what he was intending to do. There's a little bit of a mix up there by Bradley and just trying to move by and trying to get by as quickly as possible, and 2 trucks came together. But we're seeing Bradley there. I think the tire's starting to fall off. He's really struggling now with that 29 truck in the final couple laps here.
3 laps remaining, and remember, at the end of tonight we'll hear from our top 3 finishers, Ted Wade, Brian Abbott, and Keith Bradley as they currently stand. But Jacob Klinkart and Stephen Thomas at the edge of the top 5. A good run tonight from Jacob Klinkart, a good run tonight from Stephen Thomas. Keith Haney runs 6th, Blake Lothian 7th, Stephen Gregory 8th, Tyler Dittmer 9th with Adam Newbert rounding out your top 10. We'll go over it again at the end of the show when we're going over our full race results, but currently in that NASRA 360 Hard Charger Award, it sits the driver 17 spots up, and that is Trey Pitts, who started in P30 on the night, and that number 21 entry has stayed relatively clean. A little bit of damage to the back bumper, but ultimately a clean run for him. He sits P13 currently on the track, and upset 17 spots. Trey Pitts is looking to go from 9 under the cut line to hopefully a couple of good points above the cut line.
Yeah, really good run for Trey Pitts and the 21 machine today, Josh. And yeah, that's what you can do here, is just maybe come into a track where not a lot of other drivers have practiced at, and a little bit of pit strategy, get yourself some track position, come home with a good points tonight.
The driver that's going to come home with the best points night currently is the 2 of Ted Wade. Is Lothian and Gregory as well as Dittmer are back into a battle. All of them battling for P7, some 40 seconds off of your current race leader in Ted Wade. Contact made between Gregory and Lothian as they go through the S's. Back through turn 8A, now through turn 9, as Lothian is able to hold on even with a charging Stephen Gregory behind, looking for the spot.
17 truckers around coming into the chute there, and I was interested to see, Gregory got a little bit loose there coming into the run up for turn 11, and we see one truck into the tire barrier there. It looks like that is Blake Lothian there, so not sure what happened going into turn 11, but I saw Gregory getting loose that last time we were watching that battle there. I wonder if there's any contact between the two this time.
Into the tires goes the 43, and they'll get back going onto the racing surface and trying to put the power down as safely as possible. It'll be white flag this time by for the 2 of Ted Wade, as Wade is currently exiting turn number 10. And he'll go through turns 11 and 12 and see that white flag in the hands of Barney the Flagman. It was a great run for him at Martinsville. That's where he got his first win of the season. But I can remember back to when we went to Homestead, Daytona, and even Nashville Super Speedway as just really, really consistent runs for the 2 of Ted Wade. And as he takes the white flag in, he's looking to take home the second win of the season for him and be only the second driver to win would be the first driver this season to win more than one race.
There's been a discussion all season long about really who's been the talk of the field and the class of the field. There's a few drivers we've seen earlier in the season that have snuck their way in there, but really Ted Wade, especially after the win tonight, if he can hang on for the last couple of turns here, has really set himself apart from the rest of the field and really early showed that he's going to be the driver to beat. So a really great run here from the 2 truck tonight, and just another feather in the cap of an already great season, Josh.
as he works his way through the exit of turn 8A, going through turn 9 now. Lap truck behind, lap truck in front. You got to go back 4.6 seconds to find the next driver on the lead lap that was any threat for the two of Ted Wade. Abbott tried, Bradley tried, but it's not going to be enough as the 45 pulls into the pit lane. Lap truck trying to go around the outside, but it's no pressure out back for the two of Ted Wade with a drift finish at the exit of turn 11. He works his way through 12. And for the second time this season, Ted Wade has won from Virtual Sonoma.
Again, what a dominant run by Ted Wade, able to get himself up in front of this race early. And we saw in stage 1 how dominant he was. Stage 2, he gave the lead away to Keith Bradley and was able to try to battle back a little bit, but a pit call got him back up in front for stage 3 and just never looked back, Josh. It was just his race to lose all night long.
Abbott comes home second, Bradley comes home third, Klinkart Thomas rounding out the top 5. So you look at the 4 of Adam Newbert, he's looking to come home 9th, and way off the racetrack goes the 48 of Richards. Richards into the wall. Can he get back onto the racing surface? Yes, he can. Michael McKinnon is looking for a top 10, and he now sits about a half second back from the 48. If it was a little bit more of a mistake or the 48 got stuck in the pit lane, he might have had enough time, but Michael McKinnon will have to settle for P11. And 10th will go to Robbie Richards when they come across the start-finish straight.
Yeah, still a lot of battles here going back in the back of the pack as we see Joey Doucette here coming into turn 11. And another aspect of road course racing is even though leaders have finished, there's still guys racing here out for another minute and a half, Josh.
Lumpkin trying to hold on to that spot from Doucette, and he will at the line by a half-tenth of a second. Lumpkin and Doucette come across the line, and Lumpkin holds on to P16. Doucette holds on to P17. But how about it for the two of Ted Wade, first driver this season to win more than one race? He now solidifies himself as a championship, not only contender, but a championship favorite. He burns it down on the front straightaway after a successful night in Sonoma for the two of Ted Wade. As he burns it down, we'll take a look at your full race results, and what a dominating performance it was from the two of Ted Wade. Brian Abbott sits second place in the 82 machine, with Keith Bradley rounding out your podium places, P29 or P3 in the number 29. Jacob Klinkart finishes fourth. Stephen Thomas finishes fifth, with Keith Haney, Stephen Gregory, Tyler Dittmer, Adam Newbert, and Robbie Richards rounding out your top 10. Back from there, Michael McKinnon, Trey Pitts 11th and 12th. Blake Lothian, Lucas Whitehead, and Jason Morales, your top 15. Justin Lumpkin, Joey Doucette, Derek Kilgore, Brandon Bullock, and Adam Cantwell gonna round out your top 20. 21st went to Chris Cinnamon, 22nd to Raul Meza, Devin Painter, Brady LaBeouf, Cody Knott, your top 25, Dana Shepard, Dane Hagan, Matt Rudder, Huck Wigington, and Jeffrey Sickles, your top 30. And everybody else back from here, finishing in the pit lane, off of the racetrack, Jose Luis Rivera, Taylor Peacock, Eric Zimmerman, Christopher Blanchard, Zach Hartwick, and TJ Moore. Then 999 working race control tonight, so 35 drivers took the green flag, and 35 drivers on our full race results. Well, we won't waste any time. We'll go into our post-race show here on Racecraft TV, and it was a fantastic win by Ted Wade in the 2. And is joining us up here in the broadcast booth now. Ted, welcome back to the Racecraft TV broadcast booth. Second win of the season for you. First driver to do it in this season, a NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. I know this one has to feel good for you.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does, man. Put in a lot of practice this week, running with some guys and just trying to get this place down pat. It's so tough to get around here.
You mentioned putting in that practice, and is that what you think was the key to your win tonight? Because we saw Keith Bradley, he had the speed trying to catch up, but just was making too many small mistakes, and it seemed like you were all but perfect out there.
Yeah, I was definitely not perfect, though. I saw him back here running me down, and I tried changing a few lines up, and oh, hold on a sec. Oh, I got people talking to my other thing. But yeah, I kind of made a few mistakes myself, and I got off track, and Keith ran me down there, and then I think he locked the brakes up and almost spun out, and that was a close one.
Now moving on to Talladega, another wild card track, but you were able to tame this wild card track pretty good. What can you do at virtual Talladega in 1 week's time?
No, probably just ride around a little bit, try to survive to the end of the race. It's the name of the game here. We usually do a pretty good job at it, and hopefully we can get one of our other teammates in victory lane.
Congratulations on your win tonight here from virtual Sonoma, Ted. Go celebrate with the team. Congrats.
Thanks, guys. I want to give a shout out to Dan's Top Notch Heating and Cooling, Over the Top Designs, John Hedrick, all my teammates over at Up Front, Racecraft TV, NASRA, Triple M Pooling. Thanks, everybody, for being on board.
Thank you once again for joining us here in the post-race show. That's Ted Wade, your winner of the Over the Top Designs 175 from virtual Sonoma. And we now are able to talk with Brian Abbott in the 82. He's standing by with our Ian Fisher.
Brian, really great run today. Really turned your season around in a positive note here. And coming to Sonoma, were you looking forward to the road course racing? Is it something you excel out? Talk about racing here at Sonoma and what that means to you a little bit.
Man, I raced at it very few times, and I couldn't really tell you, man. I was just along for the ride. I practiced it a couple of times, but, man, it was a struggle.
Coming down the stretch, you were racing hard with Keith Bradley there, and we saw both of you going into turn 7 pretty aggressively, and there's a little bit of contact made between the two of you. What happened there from your point of view?
Man, I guess speed was the factor. I think his tire was a little wore out, and I was able to, kind of go into turns a little bit faster than him, and we accidentally made some contact. Man, that was about the worst feeling I had.
Yeah, it surely didn't look intentional from our point of view. We were talking about it up here. We said it looked like it was just a little bit of a lockup situation and you had nowhere to go, but able to avoid those incidents and get yourself a P2 finish tonight. We go to Talladega next week, another kind of, we were talking about in the booth here, wild card race. What's your thoughts going into Talladega, and are you guys going to attack aggressively and look for that win or just try to survive?
Really for the win, but more than likely to survive, but I'll settle for the win.
Well, settle for the win would be good to see you. Good enough tonight for a P2 finish. And on behalf of all of us here at Racecraft TV, we just do want to say congratulations and good luck the rest of the season, Brian.
All right, man. Thank you.
Yeah, yep. And that was Brian Abbott, our P2 finisher. Joshua, a great run from him tonight.
Yeah, and we'll get to talk with Keith Bradley here in just a moment, driver of the number 29 machine. And it was a solid run for Keith as he joins us now here in the Racecraft TV broadcast booth. And Keith, you had the speed, just didn't seem like you could really tame that truck. It's P3 for you. And we saw the pace in stage 1, saw the pace in stage 2 with that stage win. Just kind of what got to you in stage 3 that pushed you down into 3rd place?
I can't remember exactly what corner it was, but I spun my right rear really bad, and that ruined it, basically. I mean, I still feel like I had fast enough pace to catch Ted, but when I caught him again, I did the same thing. I was just getting too impatient with myself.
And you talk about that impatience, but even in stage 1 and 2, you had some really, really solid speed. Did you think if you were able to get to Ted, you would have been able to hold the candle up to him and try and get that win, or was it just Ted in another zip code tonight?
Oh, no, like I said, there in the 3rd stage, I felt like I had enough pace and had enough speed to challenge Ted for the lead. Like I said, I got too impatient coming out of one of the hairpins, spun my right rear tire, and it was all game over from there.
Talladega coming up, as well as Darlington, Eldora, Indianapolis, Hickory, Pocono, another trip to Dega, then Rockingham and Charlotte to round out the regular season. A unique track in every single round, something for everybody. You still need that race win, but a solid race here is going to push you above the cut line. Where are you looking to get that race win? I know you would like to do it tonight. You would like to do it at Talladega, but where do you think your best shot is at getting that first trip to victory lane this year?
Honestly, all them tracks that you just named off, me or Ted won at last season. I know that can't compare this season to last season, but we were really strong at those tracks last season, and I feel like we would have a really good shot at winning at Darlington out of all of them, and Pocono.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here in the broadcast booth, Keith. Congratulations on your podium finish here from Virtual Sonoma. Go celebrate. Congrats.
Thank you. I just want to give a big shout out to Dan's Top Notch Heating and Cooling. He came on board and sponsored this season for us, and of course you guys, Bruzy Racewear, over the top of the design with John Hedrick, everybody at NASRA 360, everybody that runs with us, everybody that watches, and you guys do a great job broadcasting, and I'm excited that you guys are back with us.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us here in the broadcast booth as well during the post-race show. That's Keith Bradley in the number 29. He grabs the third place finish tonight here from Virtual Sonoma. And Ian, it's going to be intense, the run to the playoffs, but now Ted Wade, two-time winner this season, and he's got to be the playoff favorite now.
Absolutely, really sets himself up in a great position, not only going into the playoffs, but as you mentioned, that gives him that cushion there in the round of 16, thinning down to the round of 8 after the first 3 races of the playoffs, starting at Michigan in October. So just really puts himself in a great spot for the rest of the season, and I can't wait for next week at Talladega, Josh. That's going to be incredibly exciting. You know how pack racing is, how unpredictable it is, and anything can happen just like tonight, and really going to be interesting to see who comes out on top of that one.
Well, we mentioned the wild card track of Talladega. That's where we are in 1 week's time. August 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern time, like usual, we go racing from Virtual Talladega. 2.66 miles of intense super speedway action. One of 4 trips to super speedways this season. It was Chris Cinnamon that won at Daytona. Who is going to take the win at Talladega? You got to tune in next Friday night at 8:50 p.m. Eastern time, same place, right here on Racecraft TV. For Zach Johnson producing tonight, for Brady LaBeouf at NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, and for my colleague in the booth, Ian Fisher, my name is Joshua Lee. Congratulations to Ted Wade on taking the win in the over-the-top designs 175 from Virtual Sonoma. And the playoff picture is starting to get clearer. Who is going to take the win when we go racing from Virtual Alabama in 1 week's time? But for now, we say good night from Virtual Sonoma.